In Pakistani cuisine, biryani is a dish that's made for celebrations, for gatherings, and is always made in abundance, so there's always plenty to share. It is associated with royalty and extravagance, and a dish that is made with a lot of love. My name is Fatima. I'm from Lahore, Pakistan, and this is how I make chicken biryani. Biryani is actually made with a few different proteins. Chicken is common, mutton is common. My father-in-law was very upset that I chose to make chicken biryani, but it's what I grew up with, so it's my favorite. Breaking down a chicken is a little bit of a practiced art. You kind of have to know its anatomy. This chicken has a skin on, but Pakistanis usually do not eat chicken with its skin on. The way that we cook chicken, the skin doesn't get rendered, it doesn't get crispy. We cook it a lot in, quick stir fries or in stews, kind of like the way that we're gonna make it in the biryani. So it doesn't really do anything, so we commonly remove the skin. I am cutting these into pretty big pieces so that when everything's done and people serve themselves, they can choose how much chicken they want, how much chicken to potatoes ratio they want, and how much rice. It's kind of personal how you make your plate, so this way people can choose for themselves. I spoke to a few different people on how to make biryani. The technique is all the same, but a lot of people have started to use boxed mixes. I wanted to make the spice from scratch and learn all the names and learn all the different spices that go into it. We have mace, ground chilies, black cardamom, star anise, green cardamom, cloves, carom seeds, also known as ajwain, powdered nutmeg, kala zira, which is black cumin seeds, black peppercorns, and fennel seeds. As my mother would say, whatever spice you have, just put it in the spice blender. All these spices are untoasted. The spice mix will get toasted once we add them to the chicken that's gonna be cooking in the oil. You can already smell all the star anise and cardamom. There's a lot of really beautiful fragrance in here, and they're gonna add a ton of flavor to your masala. So the texture has become very fine. It's a fine powder, which is gonna dissolve really easily in the chicken, and you're not gonna get like mouthfuls of spices as you eat your biryani. We think that biryani comes from the word frying or roasting, which in this case is referring to the frying and roasting of the onions, which is the first step in making your chicken masala. This is half a cup of oil. Half a cup of oil does seem like a lot, but we're gonna fry our onions in it. These are thinly sliced red onions. You wanna get these browned and softened and caramelized. Frying onions is a pretty typical way of starting a lot of Pakistani dishes. It contributes a lot to perfuming the oil, but it's also the idea of layering, which is very ubiquitous in Pakistan and in Pakistani cooking. So the onions you can see are evenly browned. We're gonna use some of these onions to top our biryani with, and I'm gonna use most of them as part of my chicken masala. So chicken masala is essentially going to be the chicken element that we're going to make. That's basically going to be chicken with spices, and it's basically a chicken and gravy. And then you have your rice element, and then those two things are going to get layered together. You cook this on pretty high heat, making sure it all gets coated in oil. I'm going to add ginger and garlic paste, a generous tablespoon of each. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of my spice mix, and anything that's left extra, you can just reserve it. You want to create a nice flavorful masala that won't overpower but complement the rice. I'm gonna add 2 bay leaves, a cinnamon stick, red chili powder. The turmeric is for color and flavor. It's gonna add that iconic yellow that biryani is. At the end, we're gonna add the very iconic aloo bukhara, which are dried plums. So they're really sticky. You usually don't eat them whole. You can maybe take a little bite, but they're mainly used for perfume and fragrance. So while this is getting nice and toasty, we're gonna add our tomatoes. I like adding it because it helps form that gravy, adds tartness, adds sweetness. So this is desi natural dahi. Dahi is the word for yogurt in Urdu, and desi means from the subcontinent. So I would say that I'm a desi person. What's different between desi yogurt and the yogurt that you might see in the West is that the Western yogurt is strained. Well, this is not. So it has a little bit more water to it. The masala is looking incredible. Once I've added my yogurt and tomatoes, I'm gonna add my potatoes. These are cubed pretty big so that they can cook at the same time as the chicken. This is a very controversial step. Where I'm from Lahore, which is Punjab, we don't really usually add potatoes, but people from the south, from Karachi and Hyderabad, think that biryani is not biryani if it doesn't have potatoes in it. So the last step of this chicken masala is adding the onions back. I'm only gonna add 2/3 and reserve 1/3 to add to the top as garnish. It's gonna meld really nicely in with the chicken and the potatoes. Long grain basmati rice from India or Pakistan is super important. I love using Zebra brands. There are extra long basmati rice grains. They don't break while they're cooking, so you really want high quality rice. The rice has been washed until the water runs clear, and then I soaked it in a few inches of water for at least 30 minutes up to an hour or two. This is gonna cook for about 5 minutes. It's gonna come back up to a rolling boil, and when the rice is almost cooked, it's gonna start coming to the surface, and I'm gonna boil my rice until it's about 80% done. So I'm gonna put a timer on for 5 minutes and just watch it, and as the timer starts to kind of trickle down to its last few seconds, I'll take a taste of it and see that it's almost cooked all the way through but still has a bite to it. So this is a very crucial step to bring the rice to about 80 to 90% done and straining it and stopping the cooking so that it can finish cooking when you're steaming the rice with the chicken. Rice has been strained. The chicken is perfectly cooked down. One of the most important visual cues in Pakistani cooking is where the oil separates from the masala and all the elements that might be in the stew. This is kind of what you're looking for, where the masala is kind of cooked down and the spices have gotten nice and toasted, and the potatoes should be about half done at this point. I'm gonna salt the chicken just lightly. That's actually perfect. I'm gonna move the chicken to the side, and I'm gonna bring out the pot that we're gonna assemble our biryani in. I have the lid here wrapped in a kitchen towel. I'm gonna make the food coloring. The yellow to biryani is very iconic, and there are some dishes, specifically rice dishes in Pakistan, that add food coloring. You get that yellow from the masala and the turmeric that we added in there, but we're gonna add a little bit more. Saffron is not traditionally used in biryani. In Pakistani cooking, it's a little expensive. It's not something we use every day. We might add it to the biryani to elevate it, maybe make some saffron water for that perfume, but a regular day-to-day biryani that you might get from the market will not have saffron in it. So the chicken is gonna be in 2 layers and the rice is gonna be in 3. So I'm gonna add 1/3 of the rice very delicately. You don't wanna go right to the middle. You wanna keep that rice nice and intact and long. So you go from the sides, so you're not smashing the rice, and very delicately spreading it out. I wanna make sure that each layer has an even amount of potatoes, an even amount of chicken. You can leave the whole cinnamon in, it's kind of up to you, but since it's such a nice big piece, even if somebody accidentally serves it to themselves, they'll be able to put it aside. We're gonna add the cilantro, 1/3 of it, and the mint. Cilantro primarily is one of the most heavily used herbs in Pakistan, and mint is right behind it. Mint is usually used piggybacking the cilantro. I'm gonna add a couple of slices of lemon. This is also purely for perfume. And then I'm gonna keep building my biryani. So now I'm gonna go with the 2/3 of rice, the remaining half of the chicken, the 2/3 of mint and cilantro, a couple of more slices of lemon. The last layer of rice is on top. I'm gonna add the last of the herbs, and then the fried onions. This is gonna add a nice crunch and savory component. Lemon. And then I like to use a spoon to make little divots in the rice where I'm gonna pour the food coloring in, and then the food coloring is gonna go on top as well. Because if I just do it on top, it's not gonna go all the way to the bottom, but you also don't want the rice to be all yellow. So I'm gonna turn our heat on for about 15 to 20 minutes. I've put my rice on dum. Dum is D-U-M and basically means it wasn't quite done and now I'm just steaming it all the way through. We put it on the lowest flame until it's done. That's gonna cook the rice all the way through. It's gonna gonna cook the chicken all the way through, it's gonna cook the potatoes all the way through, and you don't wanna peek. Once it's closed, just let it be. Depending on your flame, you might start to see steam escaping the sides, which is a cue that it's done. Dum is a very special technique to South Asia. The biryani cooked for about 20 to 25 minutes. I took it off the heat and I let it rest for about 10-15 minutes, so it should be good now. I'm gonna do the grand unveiling. It's beautiful. Something my mom drilled into me is always make sure that you are fluffing rice from the side versus going right in, so you're not smashing the rice. Biryani is always served on a platter, never in a bowl. I can tell that the chicken is perfectly cooked because my spoon hit it and it just fell apart. Biryani is plated. I have some potato. I like dark meat, so I always go fishing for that. Biryani is always served with raita, which is a yogurt sauce, and is just a nice cooling, creamy element to a dish that's pretty heavily spiced. I am pretty excited about this. Perfectly perfumed. Potatoes cooked perfectly. Chicken is really nice and tender, and you get all that layers. I think that my mother would be like, that's some pretty good biryani. More than flavor, they would be looking for like the textures. Oh, your rice is perfectly cooked, or chicken is perfectly cooked, or your potatoes didn't turn too much. Like those would be the things that you would notice before even the flavor. But the flavor has obviously a ton of warm spices, there's a lot of perfume to it, and the cilantro and the mint are just a really nice accent and freshness with the raita. Delicious. If you want to learn how to make Pakistani food, biryani is a really wonderful place to start. It's the labor of love, but once you nail it, it is one of the most satisfying things that you'll make. Mom, are you proud of me?